So before we begin, yes, I am aware of the clipping problems with this mic. It's usually when I yell, and it just isn't good at picking up things, so I'm going to have to speak a little quieter. Well, that's alright in my opinion, but I will still yell sometimes. People for some reason think that Marvel is on track to becoming the great MCU once more, and yet, with their recent turnouts like Daredevil Born Again, a show disguised as good by bringing back some of the legacy characters for like 2 minutes and burying it under so much filler and so much tripe that it's a husk of its former self. And who can forget the Captain America film without Captain America in it, where the main villains are Hulk characters and the Hulk is nowhere to be found because, well, he's on Cigar or something, I don't know. And on top of all that, there's the fact that we don't know who exactly the Avengers are after Endgame. Is it Shang-Chi? Is it Thor and Hulk and Daredevil? Is it Spider-Man? Is it Hawkeye? Is it the new Avengers? So Disney Marvel thinks it's a good time to promote their Suicide Squad ripoff, which is Thunderbolts, starring characters that nobody really cares about except for Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, and starring none of the Thunderbolts from the comics, despite them actually having one locked up. Yes, it's Zemo, and trust me, this film could have benefited from his presence greatly. So join the Doctor as I examine Thunderbolts. Asterisk. Let me get this out of the way. Taskmaster dies right away after saying one line and showing her face. I just hope Olga Kurylenko got a good payday because she deserves it after having been put through all of this. The music is okay when they're not trying to get you with the member berries of the Avengers cues. And I'm actually okay with how they portray the Void, which is the darker side of Sentry in this. That's all. Okay, where do I start? Let's get the superficial things out of the way. It's too short. It feels like there's no second act and we go straight from the first one into the third act where they have to fight the Sentry. Elaine from Seinfeld is not a good villain at all, and she honestly comes across as a all the bloody time because she needs to talk down to these secretaries and these Congress people who are trying to impeach her for being a criminal, and rightly so. And the joke is she doesn't even get her comeuppance by the end of it. She just is under the thumb of the new Avengers, as they're called this time. Anyway, they're called the Thunderbolts simply because Yelena had a 5th grade soccer team about it. Okay. John Walker and Red Guardian are literally just tools for Ghost and Yelena to basically rip on the whole entire film until Yelena wants to get in touch with her feelings at the end. John Walker gets the worst of it though. He has a back and forth with Ghost, which still, he did nothing wrong and they still keep bringing up that, oh, he's such a bad guy. Well, he's not. He didn't do anything wrong if you actually watch the bloody show. Not to mention the fact that he's an absolute punching bag when it comes to Yelena, and she even makes a comment about small penises, because ha 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 ha, it's so funny. Bucky seems to be the only competent one of the entire cast, and he's kind of forcing them to be heroes in a way. This, I guess, is Marvel's answer to who are the Avengers now. Well, it's these people who you don't care about in a Suicide Squad ripoff. Not Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Shang-Chi, Hulk and Thor, some of the original members of the Avengers. Oh, but not to worry though, because Sam Wilson is actually suing them for copyright infringement.
Christ, who wrote this?
And speaking of, that credit scene goes on way too long. We get to Fantastic Four tease that actually spoils the endings, in which they either do or don't defeat Galactus and come into the 616 universe. And it leads into Doomsday, I guess. Although it's not really a surprise because they list the theme in the credits. If you're looking carefully, you can see it. Sentry is portrayed like an absolute pussy until he becomes the Void, and even then he still is an absolute pussy and a victim because his daddy abused him. Oh,
I don't care.
it's not like we haven't seen evil Superman about 10,000 times by this point. And speaking of, Sentry is actually the only member of the New Avengers from the comics here. So yeah, the New Avengers, I guess, it's the Thunderbolts plus maybe Sam Wilson, I don't know. We still don't know who the Avengers are. You can slap the title on this all day. It's not going to work. Bucky, for some reason, took a back seat until kind of the midway point throughout the movie. It feels like he should have been in it more since he's the only recognizable character that normal people recognize. The whole film, in fact, is little
group therapy sessions,
which honestly could have worked if done right, but they have to connect it to the joke world of like Thor, Love and Thunder and She-Hulk and Doctor Strange Multiverse of Bloody Madness, so it's hard to believe when the tonal shifts constantly. Perhaps the biggest con of all, however, is that they spoiled the ending of this film by doing a live stream to promote Avengers Doomsday and having pretty much the entire cast of this film's names on the backs of the chairs saying, hey, no, they're okay, there's no stakes. Except for Taskmaster, that is. The problem is the normies aren't going to care or remember any of these characters because they haven't watched the Disney Plus slop, or Black Widow, or Ant-Man and the Bloody Wasp, or Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or Brave New Bloody World, which this is better than, but barely. So they're not going to understand. This whole film has no stakes, no build-up, and nobody going to see it. Where would I be without mentioning the bastions of the MCU by having 5'0" Florence Pugh beat up 300-pound men that are twice her size? And it doesn't matter if she's a trained assassin or not. She's not a mutant and she's not enhanced, so she should not be able to do this because she is just a person. The only person with superpowers that I can believe would be able to do such a thing is Ghost, because she can teleport around and confuse people. Bottom line is, this should have been Bucky's film, and I will die on the hill that he should have gotten the shield in the first place to begin with. Perhaps the biggest sin of the film itself is the fact that they defeat the villain with the power of friendship and a group hug, and he's just misunderstood, and the villain gets no comeuppance. I'm talking about the Void as well. He gets no comeuppance, just like, oh yeah, I can't really be Sentry anymore. Also, if this were any other franchise, I would think that Yelena was supposed to have some kind of romantic connection with Sentry, but since this is the MCU, I really don't think so. Again, the whole problem with this is that it connects to everything else that came before, and you have to do a bunch of homework to even understand what's going on. And then there's the fact that they destroy the characters like John Walker, who they bring up the fact that, oh, he murdered an innocent man. Well, no, he murdered a terrorist that killed his partner. Oh, sorry, Falcon. Not supposed to call them terrorists, are we?
You've got to do better, Senator.
Anyway, Marvel would have you believe that this is some dark and mature film, when no, it's really not. There's tonal shifts constantly because, I laugh at these unfunny jokes. But then you're supposed to care when Yelena is crying, or when Guardian finally does something other than being an absolute punching bag, or when Bob's being an absolute pussy and can't even shoot a gun. But to be fair, I would like to be tied to Florence Pugh as well. Anyway, the whole point of this is they can't let something sit. Red Guardian's speech was actually quite nice, and it was nice to see him doing anything. But bad guy comes in right away, and it's like, oh, okay, he saves a girl, and then she dies, which I laughed at, which is really, really funny because it's unexpected and comes out of nowhere. They don't let anything sit, and that's the problem with Marvel. That's a broader problem that everyone, I think, can agree on at least. One last thing I'll say is that Bucky is connected. He said he spoke to Sam, so if the Void is some big threat, which he is, he destroys half of New York, or not really, then why didn't he call in Sam Wilson, or, I don't know, Black Panther, she's doing nothing, Hulk is still around, Spider-Man's still around, so is Doctor Strange. How much better would this lineup have been? You can keep a few characters like Ghost, because we haven't seen anything of her, John Walker, but don't destroy him, and maybe Bucky. But I don't care about Red Guardian. I would have been fine if they all died except for John Walker and Bucky. But besides the point, you need to add in Zemo in there because, one, he's an original member from the comics and people know who he is, and he's not really doing anything right now. Maybe break the leader out of prison and do something with him. That's good. Hell, add in Bullseye there for good measure if you really want to rip off Suicide Squad and have them actually be villains instead of heroes. Maybe the bad guys like Bullseye or Zemo or Leader can actually fight with the good people like Bucky and John Walker and Ghost and Yelena. How much better does that sound? The acting is kinda not that bad, honestly. Florence Pugh does a good job with what she's given to work with, which is actually tripe. But I don't blame her as an actress because she is good. Go watch Oppenheimer, she's good in that. No other reason. Sebastian Stan as well is the same because he just stands around and kinda looks stoic and he takes a back seat. He's not really given much to work with, and you can tell he must have been trying to collect a paycheck. The same thing goes for Wyatt Russell, and Olga Kurylenko, who for some reason gets fourth billing for what is essentially a cameo where she takes off her mask, says one line, and dies. David Harbour is once again just an absolute joke as Red Guardian. Although he is a good actor, I will give him that, especially in his speech with Yelena. Too bad it's undercut with immediately moving on. Hannah John Kamen is alright as Ghost, but again she's given to work with, where she just needs to insult John Walker and Red Guardian and all of the male characters. And Sentry is a good actor. The guy who plays him, I can't remember his name right now, but he did a good job, especially as the Void. Elaine from Seinfeld for some reason is giving me vibes, and I don't like it. Well, my advice is don't waste your money or your time, just wait for streaming on this one. You can watch it, it'll connect to Doomsday somehow because the Fantastic Four do show up at the end, or at least their ship does. This film has no stakes because pretty much everybody survives and there's no comeuppance for the bad guys, plus Marvel spoiled it with the Doomsday chair stream. I think this could have been good with better writers and better characters. The actors do fine, but it's the fact that we don't care about these characters, and if they don't, then make us care about them. But then again, the tonal shift from dark and depressing to looking at, oh, I don't know, Thor, Love and Thunder, and having it be an absolute clown world will be like tonal whiplash, and it's not a good thing. Marvel needs to get themselves sorted out with comedy, or is it serious? Honestly, in my opinion, it should be serious. And if you want a good team-up movie, then I would say just go watch The Suicide Squad by James Caan. But I wouldn't put too much faith in the man these days, because Superman might be, in fact, super. Thunderbolts gets a 5 out of 10 in the Blake Doctor's log. So much potential wasted and just fumbled the bag. There's no inherent pestilence really, aside from the fact that John Walker and Red Guardian are punching bags, and Bucky, they don't want to demean him, but they also don't want to elevate him above Yelena and Ghost. So until the pestilence strikes, I am the Blake Doctor.